Super Bowl.
The raisins of time. That's so important. And
I'd be so down.
I'm gonna let nobody get in our way of like performing
Not even
that.
Nickelodeon.
Not
copyright.
even Nickelodeon copyright.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Well, hello.
Hello.
We are here again with the Past Lives podcast. I'm Neptune,
I'm Gabe.
and we're just gonna talk. We're just gonna have a nice little talk and conversation. Because I was gonna say, this is the first time that we get to talk since the EP is released, and since we did the live show and the EP release party and all that stuff. And so that's just been so that was such a crazy journey and experience. And yeah, I wanted to start there and just kind of see how you felt about the EP release and the EP and all that.
There's definitely, I don't know, it's been a long journey to get here, but I feel accomplished. First thing, I'm really proud of all of us and very thankful for everyone who worked on it and helped get it to where it needed to be, and that includes the actual release show thing. The Pershing.
Shout out the Pershing.
Yeah, everyone, all of our sponsors, the Goose, Crystal Clean
Services.
Shout out to Crystal Clean. The Vallejo blood runs deep.
There's so many of them. There's so many.
Jeremy, our sound guy, just everybody. So Justin, Ben for working on mixes and recording us and everything. So I don't know. It feels like a long time coming, and it feels good. And I'm really proud of the work that we did. I think it sounds good. So
me too.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of when it comes to me and you, we have known each other for a lot of years.
I'm gonna say 8 now.
7 or 8, because 2017 technically is when we met each other, and then 2018 was kind of when I guess we did the Uber stage thing at ACL.
First show together, yeah.
Which was our first show together. And it was funny because I had just talked to Nico, and we were talking about that show because he just came to see Matt.
Yeah.
But you and Matt are the two OG people that I've had in a band forever. And so how was that experience for you? How did you get to doing that show in 2018?
Get to doing that show.
That show.
My parents met in...
Okay.
But, started playing guitar. Maybe it was 5th or 6th grade. Took, lessons for maybe 2 years. And I was really into it, but I put it down for a while. And then I started playing again as I was going into college. Oh, and I went to this camp, this Art Institute music production camp, where I met my friend Sully. Shout out to Sully.
Shout out Sully.
And he is the one that connected me with you, actually. So he was playing bass in that band.
But we had done a song
without
even knowing that we had been in the song together, because you did the Bitter Honey.
Do you remember? I was going to say, which song was that? But
it was Like Honey.
Like Honey.
Yeah.
I forgot about that song.
And you did a guitar thing on it, and I remember I just knew of you. They were Sully was just oh, my friend Gabe put guitar on this song for you and Shiloh, and I remember just being oh, cool. And then I didn't know who you were because I never saw you.
Yeah.
And then I finally met you at a club.
Was it Pearl Street Co-op, or no? Was it
no?
Coconut
It
Club?
was no. It was Rain.
Rain.
It was Rain. That was the first time that I saw you, and I was oh my God, you're the one in that song.
That is how we met.
I remember.
You do remember, and I remember now that I'm here.
And now you remember. And that was
so long ago.
And then I feel if it wasn't for that interaction, then we wouldn't have probably connected for the Uber show. Because when we were trying to figure it out, Sully and everybody was oh, let's get my friend Gabe. And I was oh, yeah, perfect. I just met that dude.
It's good to know someone you're working with, you know?
Yeah, because and then, like we got Tanner off of like Tinder, which is still the funniest thing. And now Tanner's doing all the incredible things that Tanner does.
Shout out to Tanner.
Shout out to Tanner. And then, Daniel Holcomb and Shiloh and Matt. And then we rehearsed at Music Lab for the first time. And
I was just next to Music Lab like yesterday or 2 days ago.
which is now Tesla.
I know. And I was telling Mar,
Boo.
who's, someone new to
well,
Austin.
whatever.
Shout out to Mar.
Yeah.
But just how, Tesla right there used to be like pretty much the only or like the main rehearsal space in Austin
for every musician.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm like so grateful that we like kind of got to be a part of that era of that Music Lab, because there's so many incredible artists that like have probably rehearsed there and have come from there rehearsing there. And it was just such a special place, and it was so old and magical. And it's so sad that it's now just like a Tesla showroom.
It's sad, but now we can gatekeep it.
Now we can gatekeep it and say we were there, and no one else is going to be able to be
old
there.
Austin,
a little bit
by
like
that standard.
That it was kind of that last.
There's always a last.
There's always that last,
yeah,
but I mean, I feel like 2016, 2017 was kind of when it was really making that turn of being like kind of what it is now. I mean, I was here before there was like limes,
That's crazy. I used to ride Lime scooters to class at UT.
I know. And I remember you going to UT, and I remember going to the co-ops and seeing you there and like hanging out with you.
Skip the line.
You and that was one of my favorite moments is Gabe let me skip the line, this long Pearl Street co-op line. And he saw me, and I was like, I know that guy. And
something you know how to do very well.
I got my way all the way to the top, baby. And man, I miss that kind of time in that era when we would just like have so much fun. We still have fun, but it's different type of fun. That was just like aimless fun. I feel like now as we age, everything is like so goal oriented.
Yeah. Clock's ticking.
The clock is ticking, but the clock was not ticking quite yet. And it was really beautiful. And yeah, you were a big part of like OG Austin experience for me, of like going to West Campus. And
happy to help with that.
And you were the best person to lead that, because you're such a like free energy, and you know how to party, you know how to have a good time. And it's like, I don't. It's the
nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
I don't know how to have a good time. Like I'm not the best at like having a good time. I have nothing.
Come on, take a sip.
Oh, what is it? Oh, I can't say what it is.
You can't say what it is. We're gonna blur that out in post, right? I think it's good. Now they're really gonna be mad that you showed the label, tasted it, and didn't like it.
I showed it. I showed the other side of it. Okay. So we did the Uber show. Do you remember that show?
I do remember that show. Yeah.
What did you think about it?
It was cool. I mean, it wasn't like it's always funny how the details are never quite exactly what you think it's going to be. I did know that it was Uber. It was at the weekend of ACL, and it was like on the walk to get there, right at the corner of Barton Springs Saloon. In my mind, I was like, oh, we're on like an Uber stage at ACL. This sounds so cool. And we get up there, and it still was really cool and an amazing opportunity.
But it wasn't a parking lot.
But it was not in the gates.
Nope, it was in a parking lot.
So we could not say that we played ACL yet at that show.
That's what I said. I said that we could not say that. But when I talked with Nico, he was kind of like, I mean, and I was like, I don't think that counts.
But it was really cool. The actual stage itself was built like a car radio. And
yeah,
like,
it was
I don't know.
cool.
It just felt like a big production. It
was cool that was my first band show that I had ever done. And so like that was exciting. And
I think that might have been the first show that I had done that wasn't like, I don't know, one of my bands that I was fronting or like a rock show. Like that was kind of my first step into not just playing like, I don't know, music that I was writing, but collaborating with other people as
It's
well.
amazing.
Yeah.
And did you love it? Or did you
loved
like it?
Yeah, no, I remember how I felt afterwards. It was very exciting. It felt great. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like we did that, and then what, 3 or 4 years later we would do actual ACL and do Tito's.
Maybe a little longer than 3 or 4 years.
Was it
maybe
longer than that?
5. I don't know. Because
I don't
if
remember.
that show was like, was it 2018? You said
2018 and then
We did
22.
ACL 22.
So like
Yeah.
4.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah. But how did you feel about ACL and doing ACL? How did that feel for you?
I mean, that was definitely, I think, the first really big accomplishment that I felt we got was when we did South by. And then, but ACL to me felt like it was just a step above even more because it's very contained. South by they're both amazing Austin traditions, but just like very different. And obviously ACL, there's a lot less acts playing.
Yeah.
So it feels a little more selective, and it feels like, you know, a big honor to have your chance to go on that stage and do your thing, even if it's at, you know, 1:30 in the afternoon or whatever it was.
I think it was a great
Maybe-
slot for our first
Yeah,
year.
it was great. And I remember, like, of course, we had our core people there who come out to see us and support us as much as they can, but just like the sound drawing people in and watching that tent fill up over the course of 45 minutes. And
It really did.
we also started working on our set for that like 6 months before, you know, as soon as we had any hint that there was going to be a thing.
We were
at
really
all.
on it.
We were on it.
But
big
the
time.
thing, it was,
Because that was like, I don't know, it was like this light at the end of a tunnel
It
that
was.
was so far away, but just like, yeah, it's like you're driving through a mountain tunnel and it still feels like it's so far away, and then all of a sudden you're just like right there at the
Yeah.
end of it. But we put in a lot of work for that.
we put in a lot of work for that. And I was telling Nico that like it was weird because we weren't even really a band yet when we got it. Like, cause the past lives, in terms of the past lives, like in terms of like all the other, I mean, between me and you, we have done like 6 or 7 iterations of a band.
Yeah.
Like from my solo stuff to, you know, you just doing something for Sammy, you doing something for Shiloh, but like all the different iterations of it. But the past lives, I feel like really started only, you know, at Scudin. And then from there, it was just like within 4 months, we were being told pretty much that we were going to get to do ACL. And that was.
So what happens when you've got Neptune on your team, you know?
That's when it happens when you got Neptune on your side. How did you feel about Neptune?
The idea
The
of
idea.
Neptune?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're breaking the fourth wall a little bit.
We can keep it. We can try to ride the line.
Okay.
Try to ride the line.
The idea of Neptune,
The lore, as
the
ever
lore,
said.
the lore of Neptune, you know, this vagabond wanderer blowed in with the tumbleweeds, you know.
Tis
But
me,
no,
tis I.
I thought it was a really cool idea, and I feel like things that you're interested in, you know, you're into drag and performance and stuff, and I feel like that kind of comes into that, like loving a character and, you know, just kind of embodying the idea of a character, whether or not, you know, they have a social security number or not, like as much as possible.
Yeah.
And just like living up to it. And yeah, you really know, like, you're a great actor as well, just like how to, you know, I don't know, maybe you have multiple personality disorder.
Maybe I have
what do
DID.
I know? You just have the switch where you can become a completely different person in any setting. But I thought the idea of that, taking on a character, was cool, because I was also really excited about potentially doing more down the line, which who knows if that's still the direction that we may go or not. But
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think we're still exploring that, because I feel like for Neptune, for me, I think it's important that the arc is completed as much as it possibly can. And I also think that people are going to connect so much with this version of myself that it's like, okay, I'm going to try to keep it as long as he needs to be here. And then when it's time, it's time.
Yeah.
But But I don't know. Like, I feel like the new music and stuff that we're working on is obviously still his stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm going to always play with it and evolve it as much as I possibly can. While still, like, calling myself Neptune for
Mm-hmm.
the foreseeable future. But yeah, I was really nervous to like break that to you guys and ask you. And I remember it was like right when we were doing Awesome Music Foundation and the development program. And I just felt like we needed some drama.
Yeah. I think drama is a great word because I feel like I've been asked to describe our band, so many times.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be difficult to describe music, especially when you like to play with genres as much as we do sometimes.
Yeah.
But theatrical is one word that does come to mind. I feel like
Theatrical is a good one.
theatrical, dramatic, I don't know, just a lot of energy and stage presence. And most of that comes from you and like the way you carry yourself on stage. But I feel like even beyond that, the band has some very orchestrated moments, stuff that tension we're trying to build. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's very planned out. There is improvisation, but a lot of it is very, I don't know,
It's
very
organized
orchestrated.
it's organized chaos,
Yeah.
which I think is something that we're getting better and better at.
Mm-hmm.
I think the EP release show was such a moment of that really being articulated in a really good way. Of like, we worked harder for that set than we have in a while, if that
Probably
makes any
since
sense.
format.
Probably since format.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I like when we do that. I like when we get into that zone for something.
Yeah.
Because then we're just like really locked in, and it makes me feel a lot more like secure when we actually do the show. So then I feel a little bit more like free to play around versus when we're like a bit unsure.
Like when we had our practice with all the lights turned out.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up.
That was fun.
To prepare for the EP release show, I was just thinking of just doing it for one song.
I know, but it felt so cool.
But it felt really cool. And we were rehearsing at Space, which is technically like the new music lab.
It's our new music lab.
And we don't really like rehearse in rehearsal spaces. We rehearse
Not
at
typically,
Jake's
yeah.
or Matt's.
Sometimes you need it though.
But we needed it. And I was really feeling that we needed to be Chip. Shout out to Chip. And honestly, A&R, a lot of people have always said like, if you want to be in big rooms, you got to rehearse in big rooms and you got to feel that energy. And I just felt like we were just, we're sitting down playing our instruments.
Yeah.
It's just like, we're not feeling it. And then we go on stage and we're supposed to all go at 10 and we've been rehearsing at 4.
Got to let the tubes on the amp warm up before you can play them.
You got to let them rev up.
Yeah.
And so we went to Space and we were rehearsing. We did a whole set. We did the whole set one time. And then after that, I was like, let's turn off the lights for one of them. And then we turned off the lights, and then we just ended up doing the whole set in the dark.
And it was pretty good too.
And it was pretty good.
Although I think we should do it more often.
I think we should, really, and I think that really educated the song The Way, for me, because I was really able to kind of feel it for the first time in the dark, and I loved it. I was just like, this is
a song
fun.
you need to hear in a dark room.
It's a song you may sometimes need to hear with the lights off. And I really appreciated that. And that's what I think I love about us is how we're able to like go and just try it and just do stuff like that. So there's 6 of us. How do you feel we're navigating through everybody's opinions? We all have very strong personalities.
That's why we're musicians.
That's why we're musicians. So how do you think it's going on?
I think it's going great. I think, every band and every interpersonal relationship has its ups and downs and its moments of tension. But I feel like we are opinionated because we care deeply about making good music. And we all have different tastes, So sometimes people's tastes are different, but I feel like we do have a good ability to come to compromises and work together. I'm not gonna lie, there's been some practices where I've left burnt out on just like my social meter, but there's been times
Big
like our last practice, this last weekend where we are writing some really cool new idea and like everyone's bouncing off each other so well. And like I really feel like that song was all of our songs so much together. 'Cause
Absolutely.
we wrote it right there in the same room.
That new song is such a great embodiment of like where I think our band is going as a band.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's still this
I hope
kind of this like intense kind of drama, but I think we're getting a little bit more
Sophisticated.
I don't want to use the word sophisticated, but I think like we're just getting more controlled. I think we're also just learning how to all just go together.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's like, it's been such a big journey, I think, for us. It's just because there's so many people, everybody's so talented. Everybody has so many great ideas, you know what I mean? That we have to like really figure out how to manage and condense it and make sure that it doesn't sound like 6 different people's idea of a song, but one idea of a song.
Yeah.
And I think that we do a really great job at that. In the fact that we all write together. Like, that's crazy that we all write together.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. It's something I think about often whenever you look at, a lot of bands from history just are named after one person who did most of the writing, or like
there's like
may have 1 or 2 people who are the main songwriters. But I was just thinking about this today. Like, I was listening to KUTX, shout out, great local radio. What I usually have on if I'm too lazy to play my own music.
You better promote.
And I heard this amazing song that I hadn't heard before, didn't recognize. Shazammed it, because I couldn't wait those 3 tracks for the run back.
For them to say, yeah.
So I was like, okay, Edgar Winter Group, also a Texan musician, famous Texan musician who played a lot in Austin. And I was just like, wow, this is a really cool song. It has a very past lives vibe. And I don't know, this guy who's a band leader, and it's like in his name, you got to think about getting the other instrumentalists in the room and just how you may start with one song, but all of the different people that touch it make it a song, make it a song and not an idea. And like, that's to me a very essential part of songwriting as well, especially if you're going to be a band.
I agree.
You don't necessarily want to get up there. And I think that's kind of what makes rock bands or many kinds of bands different from classical musicians. And classical musicians are some of the most amazing technical performers that you can find, but like something different from reading instructions off a page, essentially, which you can, deeply feel the music still when you're doing that and put your spin on it. But doing that versus, putting minds together, and we don't even write it down really. It's kind of just like ideas floating in the air. It's like a long oral history.
Yeah, we don't write anything down. We've done I would say a decent job at capturing everything, like video wise, and there's always kind of every 2 months, I think, since we've been a band
secretary, a band scribe.
We need we need someone to maybe it's Ever. Maybe we'll just have Ever create the lore. But yeah, I feel like everything, like we rehearse, like we make a song and then we put it on a voice memo. And then we just like remember, like we just walk away and then we come back and then we just kind of do it. Well, I don't do this because I don't play an instrument, but but you know what I mean? Like we come back and we kind of, but I love it. I love the process. It's taken me a second to I wanted to say to love it. It took me a second
learn to love it.
To learn to love it. Well, because I'm such, me. I mean, I'm such a control freak and.
Not all the time.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'll take that. I have my moments where I can try to.
You have your moments where you feel passionate.
I maybe that's a better word. I'm very passionate about things, and it's like, I don't know. I've seen so many moments where I maybe in my brain wanted something to go a certain way, but then it didn't, and it worked. And once I can teach myself that, like my brain that, then it just builds more trust. And I think that's all that we've been doing with each other for like the last 2 years, is just building trust with our band, and that our ideas should be heard. You know what I mean? And you know, there's been moments where you've made a decision or had an idea that changed the course of a song, you know what I mean? Or built the song.
Everyone has.
And everyone has. Yeah. And so I think we all have, like, we've all had our moment. Everybody in the band has had a moment where we brought something to the table and it made something really epic come to life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that that's really special. Like, that's really unique, you know, when it comes to a band. And I really appreciate it. I wanted to shout out your parents, and because if it wasn't for
our writing retreat,
we wouldn't have Gemini.
Or Ladies and Gentlemen, although that didn't make it onto the EP. That was also birthed out of there.
But specifically Gemini. Gemini was purely from that writing camp. And I love that we do writing camps.
It's fun.
And we're going to do more of them.
Writing camps where we don't write anything down.
Sometimes when we do the writing camps, that's when I'll write in an actual notebook. Yeah. But it's very rare that I do that.
Than, like, typing on
so much quicker than it
feels more connected.
Different strokes for different folks. Yeah. Like, different times call for different things for me when it comes to like writing. But what was I going to ask you? Oh, so the EP. What is your favorite song?
I do love all the songs. Okay. I think they're all, I'm a big fan of all of them. I feel like there's little things we learn to, you know, just say goodbye to that maybe could have been performed a little better or tweaked a little better, but it was just, it was good to let it go. But at the end of the day, I love all the songs. I do. My favorite, I think, at the moment is All Night. That was the one I got to lead the music video in.
I was going to talk about that, yeah.
But I think I just love, like, funk music. I love disco, and I love a good guitar solo. So I had a chance to play one on there.
You love a guitar solo.
But I don't know. I think Ego might be the one that sounds the most like
a
churchy song. And like just massive.
That's a good word for it.
It sounds massive. And okay, let me think through the track list real quick. So we got All Night, Baila, then Gemini,
Take Your Time, Ego, Purple.
And Purple. I would say All Night's my favorite right now, you know, but I like them all for their different reasons. Yeah.
I would say Ego is probably my favorite. Just because, first of all, it's so fucking fun to sing.
I think it's the best vocal song on the album.
I was so hard on myself about that recording. And I'm honestly glad that I was so hard on myself. Like, I was really stressing out about it. Because when we first, I don't know if you remember any of this, but when we first recorded it, with the vocals, that was when we at 512, the first time that we did it, it was like, we did like Gemini and we did Ego. We only did those two. Yeah. And then I remember I didn't actually get on in the booth or actually sing until like way later in the day. And I was so exhausted, like vocally. And I was still kind of doing like the I am the gun type of Neptune voice. And so it was weird. And then we stepped away, went to the Goose with Justin. Shout out Justin. And then we came back to 512 and then did All Night, Baila, all in like 2 days. We did like all the rest of the EP.
It's like 2.5.
In like 2.5 days.
2 days for instruments and, you know, a little extra for vocals.
But the thing is that the first thing when we walked in to 512, that second round, and Justin was like, what do you want to do first? And I was like, the first thing I want to do is go into the booth and go do Ego, like right now, before the boys get here, before anything. I was like, because my voice is good. I'm not tired. I'm not fatigued. I'm not anything. And I know after these 3 days, I'm going to be shot. Like, I'm going to be exhausted. And so I did it like more than like 13, 14 times. And like, I was just being so hard on myself because I was like, I have to do it all in one take. It can't be comped. It has to be one take. And I was just so fucking annoying. But I'm proud of myself for doing that. Because if not, it wouldn't sound the way it does. Because it was like, it was me really trying to like get into my singing bag, you know?
It's such an emotional song, you know. I feel like there's some songs where comping here and there, you know, it's
matters.
fine,
And I think it was still ultimately comped here and there.
Here and there,
Yeah,
but
but
to capture that energy moving forward with every line, you know, that thought from the last line carries into the next one. And I feel like it influenced the way you sound and the way you feel. You know?
And it influenced the rest of the project in terms of how I approached it vocally, which was really fun. And honestly, Purple Dreams is my favorite. Like, Purple Dreams for me is my number one.
I was thinking today about all the songs. I think that's the only one that I maybe like brought the idea. It was me, Nico, and Matthew working on it together, but I think I came up with the progression on bass, actually.
Was really you.
That and yeah.
All of it. Well, because it was just me, you, and Nico. And Matt.
Mateo, yeah.
And it was so great because we were just chilling, and
I thought that song was going to go in such a different direction.
Absolute same.
Yeah.
I had no idea that it was going to sound the way that it did, but I remember us doing it, and I remember us having such a great time and having so much fun and just kind of hanging out with each other, and like it was super after hours, and you were on bass. I love when we do that.
That's so fun.
It's always, I think that's always when we end up creating, like Baila was Nico on bass. You know, like we always have those moments where we switch, and the Easy, the new one that we made, was because Jake just got on the guitar for 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Like that just ends up happening. But I remember Matt fighting me, and me and Matt will talk on the pod, but fighting me about Purple Dreams because I didn't think it was a Past Life song. Like I was like, no, I'm singing really high. This makes no sense. And he was just like, no. He was like, this is a great song. I remember we went to Whataburger at like 2 a.m, and we were like listening to the voice memo, that like one that we made. And I was just like, okay, let's see what we can do. And then we went to the Goose. And that was the first time, I think, that when we made that demo with Justin, I think that was the first time that we were like, oh, okay. I think, so this is what the EP is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It did come out of that session at the Goose with Justin.
Yeah. Because we had Ladies and Gentlemen. We had some that won't be named. You know, we had all of those songs. And then it was just like, all of a sudden, Purple Dreams came. And it was like, oh, this is different and weird. And then from there, all night, Baila, everything just kind of started.
I remember us saying, like, yeah, we tracked so many demos, like, not really full songs necessarily. We tried to get them as close to a full song as we can, you know, in one sitting, but stepping outside and just kind of listening back or into the kitchen, you know, as we made some food or whatever, listening back to the songs we were working on. And especially after Purple Dream, I feel like we really decided that, you know, all these songs are very different. All Night, we'd say funk, house combo.
Yep.
You know, Baila, kind of bossa soul combo.
Bossa soul.
Gemini, psychedelic rock.
Take your time, like pop girl. It's the pop girl moment.
Futuristic, little psychedelic. But that word keeps coming back, psychedelic. And we just decided that whatever bass genre that we were going to start with, that we would layer psychedelic elements on top of them and get us there. You know, Ego, psychedelic, worship music to me, or not worship, you know, what's the word I'm thinking?
Gospel.
But
it is kind of worshipy, like, you know, and I mean, I grew up in church, and so it's like, I've always kind of written songs with like a bit of a church structure in a weird way, especially because of church music is just so much energy. It's just like big chords and big holds and big moments, and like, because you're trying to get, you know, your congregation riled up, you know, and I feel like Ego kind of, and shout out to Ben for really kind of kind of getting to the meat of what that song was. That song was like a lot when we first made it, and kind of just letting me have the beginning of the first chorus by myself, and then having that kind of choir come in kind of idea. It was so cool. It was just like, that was just such a great moment. And like, that song I think is so special. And like, I think that one, Purple, I mean, all of them, like I love them all. It's true. Yeah. Okay, before we go, All Night, you got to do the music video. How did you feel about that?
I was nervous for sure.
You did so good.
I haven't acted since the second grade Dripping Springs Elementary School play, probably. So
you did so good.
Yeah, it was fun. And our other Justin.
So many Justins.
Such a talented director.
Saturated. They're just so great.
Justins are great people in general. I think I can support that.
Yeah. Period.
Let's get a Justin for president.
Justin, one of the Justins for president.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I was so proud of you because of just, and I think that's something I've always loved and admired about you, is that you're just like, you can really go with the flow. And like, there was a lot of things being like thrown at you, but you took it all so well, and you asked the right questions, and you were just like really just trying to be focused. And you know how I am, like I kind of tell you 8 million things that you need to do like 3 minutes before you need to do it.
Would have been good to know that I needed a record player.
Yeah, that you need a record player and blah blah blah. I don't know.
To go back home.
We all know who I am. But I mean, you're so like, maybe you're so. I think the word is you're so patient with me. Like you're like, because you know there's something good that will come from it.
Yeah, and I feel like whatever as good as my acting could be was going to represent the band, in a certain way, in a small way. So I wanted to
killed it.
I wanted to try to do good. Hopefully I did.
You really did. It was cool. I'm such a nerd, and I'm so excited to show everybody this like anthology and this kind of thing that I'm trying to create with like an odyssey of the band, of the different past lives and different eras of everybody. Yeah. And like, it was just really cool to just get to see you like work with a team and work with people, and have to kind of like, it wasn't like intense anything, but just, there's some moments where you kind of had to get into a bit of a zone, and like, it was just fun. And also to get to do the scene with you and to get to be in that,
So we had to cut some of it out, unfortunately.
We did have to cut. We had to cut you some of it, and you saying I'll be here all night, which really pissed me off.
Why?
I just was like, no, we're not going to put that in there. But no, I'm so happy that we have stuck together for so long.
Me too.
And we're gonna stick together for even longer. And I love you, and I'm excited for everybody to like continue to get to discover us as a band, and each of us, and I'm excited to see who's everybody's favorite, who everybody hates.
It's Nico.
It's everyone's favorite is Nico.
I think it's Nico.
To me
the
personally,
chillest vibes in the band.
Yeah, Nico's my favorite. Yeah, for sure. Cause no problems, just nothing.
It's just a heart of gold,
Just a heart of gold. I won't do any of the other list, but I love all of them.
Yes,
and
I love them all too.
And I love you.
I love you.
And this was another Past Lives podcast episode. Rock and roll.